It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of rAVe TV. I am your just one host this week, Steph Beckett. Gary is stuck in a few different meetings. I know it must be, he owns a company, all right? He's a very busy guy. So unfortunately, you've just got to deal with me this week. So I want to start with a few housekeeping things. We do have a special guest who's going to come on with us in a few, Scott Tyner. He's going to talk about his most recent article he wrote for us. But I did want to just go ahead and just talk about a few different things. First of all, I don't know if you follow us on social. You should if you don't. We're rAVe Pubs on everything. But I took a special trip to the Gogh Experience. It's in Raleigh right now. It's kind of a traveling exhibit. It's sometimes in just like multiple different cities, so you can go look it up on its website to see if it's coming anywhere near you. But this was super cool. So this was basically taking all of Van Gogh's art that he's created through his life and kind of making it transition into a experience that kind of is for your ears, your eyes. So basically it's just like a lot of projection mapping at all times. So we've got like a few different videos, a few photos that we're kind of going to roll through. So you can kind of get an idea of how cool this was. Like the projection mapping was definitely the coolest part because as you're walking in, they were doing projection mapping on this statue of Van Gogh's face. Another part was projection mapping of all of the different like flower paintings that he's done on like a flower pot sculpture, and then you walk into a big room and it's like the total experience, and that's when everything's just projected on walls, on floors. We were trying to count how many projectors they used, and I did climb on a bench to see what brand of projectors they were using, so if anyone saw me do that, they're sorry. They're Barco projectors. I think it was like G60s and F80s were the ones that I saw mostly, but in the big room it was about like 30 projectors, I wanted to say, when I was counting. So it was very, very cool. I'm working on an article about it for both pubs and launch code. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be coming very soon. So a few other things we have coming up. Launch week 6, people. It's exciting. I can't believe that, we're at a time where we can talk about that we've done 6 of these. So that is October 24th through the 27th. We are going to have 4 days of content this time. We're going to do one on Pro AV, one on emerging tech, one on UCC, and one on digital signage. So we're still gathering all of our speakers and stuff for that, but just letting you know that they're going to be, kind of based around solution types for those days. So definitely sign up. We are dropping the registration link now. And by the way, we are live on Pubs, YouTube, LinkedIn, and I think that is it. But we are dropping the link there, mostly on LinkedIn. So definitely register. We are very excited for that. Also, I want to talk really briefly about CEDIA Expo. That is coming up at the end of September. And of course, we are going to be there. So they are using the Launchpad again this year. The Launchpad is something that's used for like new brands, so new manufacturers. It's reserved completely for them. And we've listed out the current companies that are going to be at the Launchpad. But if you're a new company in AV and you're interested in getting into like the UCC space, the home space, this is definitely a good opportunity to do that. So you can check out that story at ravepubs.com. And I think one more thing I wanted to promote registration for, as we're just like continuing through housekeeping right now, is DSC. That is going to be toward the end of this year, and that is like the 17th through the 19th of November, if I'm remembering correctly. And you can go ahead and register for that. You can use the code rAVEGIFT, and that gets you onto the show floor for free. Like, why pay to go? You already got to pay for your flight, so you can go for free. Use our code. Yeah, I think that's all the housekeeping I had to do. We're going to show a quick spot from our sponsor, Shure, and then we're going to come on with Scott Tyner in just a second.
The first conference calls were simple. One person talks, everyone listens, end of discussion. As things progressed, companies tried the latest tools for connecting. Then, video conferencing exploded. More people, more rooms, more microphones. But without proper processing, added mics added issues. Echo, noise, too loud, too quiet. Digital signal processing hardware helps, but the cost and complexity confined great calls to C-suite spaces. What about everyone else? We could see each other, but could anyone understand what was being said? The audio revolution has arrived. Introducing IntelliMix Room, the first audio processing software for Windows 10 PCs optimized for Shure conferencing microphones. Rather than having to unbox and install multiple DSP units, simply download and deploy software to in-room devices in seconds. Requiring no messy cables, additional hardware, or bloated AV racks, more time and budget opens up to outfit more spaces. IntelliMix Room works seamlessly with the most popular conferencing platforms, reducing echoes, eliminating background noise, and delivering crystal clear calls. Thanks to decades of Shure audio expertise, the days of complex DSP hardware end with a simple download.
Hi, Scott. Welcome to rAVe TV. Thank you for being our guest this week.
Hey, Steph. Thanks for inviting me. I try to get on and watch this every Wednesday. So when you asked me to come on, I was like, absolutely.
Oh, that's so nice you watch every week. I always kind of like wonder. I'm like, Gary, like there's a good chance that you and I are just talking to ourselves every week. And he's like, you know what? And that's fine. How it should be. But I appreciate you for watching.
Well, it looks like you have fun anyway, if that's the case.
We do. It's like a little less fun when I host by myself. So I do appreciate you like kind of helping me have a guest spot this week.
Okay.
So we were talking about TV shows, just because that's what I like to talk about on here. And I'm always like asking Gary if he's watching anything new. And he usually like yells at me because I'm not watching the same things he is. Are you watching anything good lately?
Let's see. We just finished watching The Old Man on FX.
Okay. Is that good?
It is. Surprisingly, it is.
Gary's shaking her head, so she must watch it too.
The worst part, and I'm not going to give anything away, but we sat down to watch it again last night and realized we had watched the season finale and didn't even realize it was this.
That was finale. It. Oh no!
You're like, hey, wait a minute. How does this wasn't done? So already very anxiously looking towards the next season of The Old Man.
Has it been renewed yet? Because I don't like to get too attached before I know if it's been renewed.
I agree. And often, I actually often don't like starting new series. I like watching a series when it's done and you can just watch the whole thing. So I don't know. I mean, it literally apparently just ended a week or two ago. So I don't even know if they've had a discussion about renewal.
Okay. I was telling you, I just finished Stranger Things because I like to take my time with it. I can't blow through a series like that, especially because season 4, the episodes were all so long. Like the season finale was like 2.5 hours long. So I was like, I can't just like blow through this in 2 days like some people can. And I was really taking my time with it because I was telling you, like they take like 2 years between seasons. So I was like, well, if this is all I have, I'm going to like make it last for as long as I can. And that's another show that just like is so well done. And I obviously like I love that the creators are from North Carolina and I live in Durham and they like throw out Durham references like little Easter eggs here and there, so I'm a big fan of that as well.
Yeah, we were waiting for Stranger Things. We kind of binged it within they dropped those last 2 episodes late, so we had to wait.
Yeah,
we were done them in a day or 2.
Oh gosh, yeah. I just have to savor it. I have to make it last as long as I can. But the real reason I had you on was so we could talk about your article that I recently posted on Pubs. And this is all about identifying your customers' needs. So you were talking about how you were inspired by Mark Coxon's article, which was Saving the Office Park, which is kind of about that idea of like listening to your employees and like letting your employees tell you like, okay, like what type of work is working for us? Is it part office, part home? Is it all one or the other, instead of just like making that decision for them based off of like what you're paying or wanting to support the businesses near the office, which is like kind of a weird reason. But you kind of were framing this more toward listening to your customers and letting your customers tell you what they want. So tell me a little bit about this idea of the overconfidence effect and how that kind of fits in here.
Well, I think that a lot of us, and if you read about the overconfidence effect, it's a well-known thing that all of us believe in our abilities more than we're actually capable, especially when we're talking about guessing things or predicting the future. And the interesting thing about the effect is the more confident you are that you know what's going to happen, actually, the less accurate you are.
Right.
And so for me, I alluded to this in the article as well. I see all the time people putting on education shows or education talks about the future of the classroom or the future of this, and they have nobody from education there. And so it really makes me and other higher ed managers I've talked to question, where are they getting their information, right? Are they just trying to sell us a product? And more I see they are starting to invite people that are in education. But even then, I think when you invite me as a technology manager, I can say what I see, but I'm not a teacher. I'm not in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And so getting people that are in the classroom and really understanding what their issues are, getting people in conference rooms and businesses to talk about how has that changed over the past years? What are the real struggles you have? Rather than just selling a pre-canned thing, thinking about the issues that they have and need to have resolved.
This kind of almost goes back to like a thought that I feel like you've had for a while about like, you can't do this without end users, or something that I've had for a while where I think like it's not happening as much recently, but sometimes in AV I've heard things about millennials like this, millennials want this. And I've been like, well, did you ask one? Like, I don't know about that. So this kind of just goes back to really taking into consideration the people that you're just like assuming what they want. Like, how are you going to know what an end user wants if you don't ask?
Yeah, it's so interesting. And again, we all think we know, right? Like you just said, well, I'd say, well, I've got a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old kid. I know what people that age want. They would laugh at me if they heard me say that, because of course I don't. And we interesting story, right? We went through this thing recently at where I work, where we implemented two-factor authentication, which is that ability to say, yeah, that's me logging in. And we had people use their phones, and everybody was saying, well, students always have their phones. Of course they have their phones. They live on their phones. Well, it turns out a lot of students don't bring their phones to class. They leave them at home because they don't want to be disturbed.
That's interesting.
Right. And we're finding this out now. They're writing to us saying, I don't have my phone with me all day. The other one, and I would have told you this is true. A lot of people that age, college age, they don't charge their phone every night like I do. That's my pattern. I charge my phone at night. They charge their phone when they need to charge their phone. And I see the kids, it'll be the middle of the day and their phone dies. And I'm like, well, you've only been up for 3 hours. How is your phone not fully charged? And so it's just kind of thinking how that affected what we thought was going to be a smooth rollout of two-factor. And it wasn't, because we assumed we knew things about people that we didn't.
And then, like, there you go. What's the thing they say about assuming?
Yes.
But I was also really struck by the Harvard Business Review article that you also referenced in your article. And there was like the quote that was like, well, engineers often fall in love with technology for its own sake, and they incorrectly assume that like everybody else will too. And that's so interesting to me, because I feel like I don't always think like that, because like whenever someone talks about, oh, we're putting this new technology in, I'm really excited about that. But maybe not everyone wants to learn to use like a whole new thing if they don't have to.
I think that's very true. And I actually think that, and that's where I really get into the overconfidence factor, because I think so many of us who design or work with any type of technology would say, oh, that's not me. I don't put in new technology just for technology's sake. But if you take a step back, you probably do. I remember years ago, we put writing boards, they were symposiums in every classroom we were doing, because of course faculty would want to write on it.
Yeah.
And it never took off. And so in retrospect, that was us assuming we knew what they wanted rather than really listening to them about it. But I think we all do, and I think the point of this article is just to say be aware of that, and really listen to people, and really think about where your own prejudices are coming in, or what you assume is to be true. Get rid of those assumptions, and listen, and try to solve problems rather than sell a product.
Yeah. What would you say like first steps would be for someone to like start to kind of get over that overconfidence factor and be like, okay, like let me like reroute my brain here? Like what would be like the first step that you would suggest?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. The first one is to seriously question whether that's your skill set or not.
Yeah.
Thinking outside the box and listening and trying to solve problems is not everybody's skill set. So try to figure that out first. The second one, and we talked a little bit about in the article, is that Microsoft, the government, they hire anthropologists to come in and watch people. And so whether it's a conference room, whether it's a Zoom meeting, whether it's a classroom, sit in there and watch, and don't judge. And then talk to the faculty member, talk to the person running the meeting. What did you struggle with? Were students not understanding things? Were people in your meeting distracted? And really try to understand the issues that they might not even be able to really verbalize. But I think a big piece, and that's interesting why I think a person like Mark, when I saw him on here a couple of weeks ago, it really struck me, because I think that's probably a skill of Mark's, is to really listen and think and understand, and help people solve problems, rather than just, I've got this display that's going to solve all your problems, no matter what they are, which we know isn't true.
There's definitely there seems to be a perfect spot between being like an empathetic person and really into technology. And I think that those people are going to be the ones who like really do well with this. And I think that's what Mark is, and that's what you were talking about. Like, because I feel like he's really empathetic. He's a great listener, but he also like knows what he's talking about in terms of technology.
100%. And sometimes that might mean you're giving solutions or thinking up solutions that would use technology that doesn't even exist anymore. And that's fine, because that means we have to go build that product or design that product if that's what is going to solve a certain problem.
Yeah. Exactly. Final question I'll have for you, because like the final thing you mentioned in your article is about like, you know, part of the problem is because like we just don't really know what to expect anywhere right now. And there's no like fix all solution, because some people are going 100% back to the office or back to the school, and some people aren't. Some people are doing hybrid. So do you think that we'll ever get to a point where like design and tech and work, like expectations are not like changing so like hyper rapidly?
I hope so. I think in my response to Mark on Twitter, one of his articles, was it amazes me that businesses aren't seeing the fact that the money they've spent on office parks has been spent, right? You can't try to solve the problem because you don't want to just lose that money. It's gone. I think what we're going to really see, though, is that there is no one solution, and that rAVe pubs might do something very different than Bates College does, and another college might do something very differently. It all depends on the culture. It depends what problems you're trying to solve, what problems exist. So I think that you'll see a number of different situations, which is exciting for people who really like solving problems. But I think trying to say everybody's going back to the office, or everybody's staying home, or everybody's hybrid is it's just too generic, and it doesn't solve everybody's problems.
Agreed. Well, Scott, thank you so much for hopping on here. It's been fun talking to you, and it was good seeing you. Haven't seen you in a long time.
It was great seeing you too, Steph.
I hope the next couple weeks before school are not too crazy for you, but I'm sure they will be.
It is without a doubt the craziest time of the year, and we're on our last vacation right now of the summer, and after that, we pretty much in higher ed consider summer over once the second week of August hits.
It's crunch time. Well, good luck. It was good seeing you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, we are going to show a quick spot from our other sponsor and partner, Legrand, and I will be right back.
Yes. I love how this can be used in open spaces. The design fits right in. Yeah, the acoustic panels feel great. This will help absorb background noise. That's a nice touch. Camera blends in. This is a full meeting room experience. Look at all this storage. Super easy to access with these sliding doors. Yeah, this looks great from all sides. We run out of conference rooms all the time. This is going to be a game changer.
All right, so don't forget you can go to this site here and check out everything that Legrand just talked about in that spot. That is legrandav.com/forward/resources/applications and /conferencing. And it has all of the resources there to talk about AV solutions that provide meeting equity and hybrid conferencing, because, you know, no big secret, meeting equity is the big, term right now for, you know, making everyone who's at home, who's in the office, have an equal experience when they are in meetings. So don't forget, and we will drop that link in LinkedIn for everyone watching there as well. So gonna go through the news really quick. I know I just have a few more minutes here. So first of all, D10 released a PoE version of D10 Mate, which is the thing here that lets you kind of join. It's kind of like a personal meeting joining device, like a Zoom Room controller and a Zoom Room scheduler. And what they previously had was a Wi-Fi enabled version, and this one is power over Ethernet. So it doesn't seem like a major difference, but based on what you use to power it or what it uses to connect, that is a pretty big deal. And I saw that that is a big story right now on Pubs. It's one of the ones that everyone is clicking on, so I thought I would briefly talk about that. So I never really thought that I would talk about Guitar Center, in AV, but I guess I should never say never, because Guitar Center acquired Cutting Edge Systems Corporation, which is a part of Audiovisual Design Group. So as Gary said in the headline, if you're not taking Guitar Center seriously in Pro AV, you should. So basically this kind of brings Cutting Edge's integration services under the umbrella of Audiovisual Design Group. So that is very interesting, and that's going to be an arm of Guitar Center's business solutions. So this is kind of like an interesting new part of the business that they're getting into. I think that that is going to be a big deal. I think that people are not going into storefronts as much. So a lot of these companies are having to get kind of creative with what the next area for business is. So I don't, whether you agree, whether you don't, that's fine. You can drop a comment in LinkedIn. A piece of industry news. So this is from Avixa's IOTA report, which I know that we talk a lot about. There aren't that many resources in AV for us to be able to take a temperature taker of how the industry is doing. But Avixa does a really good job with this survey and is really good about where they get their information. And I think it's a pretty good marker for how the industry is doing. So according to this, it's going to reach Pro AV is going to reach 263 billion this year. So it also thinks that, based on its projections, that we're going to reach 351 billion in 2027. Just goes to prove that, as COVID is continuing, it's definitely not over. People are relying heavily on Pro AV to continue making their businesses work. So, this is an industry that there is going to continue to be money in. So you can go check out the rest of that survey. We have a link to it in our story on ravepubs.com. That is all the news I had this week, but I do have one case study that I wanted to bring up. So I thought this was really cool. This is Epson and Igloo Vision. So Igloo Vision creates content, and Epson, as you know, big projector company. So they did this install in Dubai, and it's kind of an immersive workspace so that you can bring up all different windows and work kind of in this area. And I don't know if you guys attended ISE or Infocom, but they kind of had a similar setup within their booth. So I think it's really cool that they created, basically a real version of these in Dubai. So I will be interested to see, like how people work in an immersive room like this. Is this going to be a trend? Obviously, immersive experiences are all the rage right now, as this proves, as the Van Gogh exhibit that I attended proves. Like, people really love the immersion aspect of what projection can do. So I will be interested to see how this affects our industry in the future. All right. I think that is about it from me. Thank you all for joining me at another episode of rAVe TV. I will see you next week. Gary will be here, fingers crossed. But don't forget, every Wednesday, noon Eastern, and we will see you next time. Bye.
It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.